What's up, guys? Welcome to the Mike Flory podcast. I'm your host, Mike Flory, and today is the first ever current events episode I've ever done. There are 4 topics going on right now that I feel like need to be touched on, and there's so much misinformation going on out there, especially if you listen to the mainstream media. Do not listen to anything they tell you. You should already know that, but I'm here to reiterate that they're full of shit. So there's 4 topics I want to talk about and hopefully clear some things up for you guys. The first one is the Luigi Mangione case. Then we're going to talk about drones, the drones over New Jersey and Pennsylvania, Al-Qaeda, and then Bitcoin. To start with Luigi, I'm assuming you guys are already familiar with this case. I don't need to go into the details of why he has been charged with murder. You guys all know the whole story. So he was extradited to New York, and he was supposed to be charged by the state of New York with this murder case, but it was hijacked by the federal government. His lawyer, she is a high-profile lawyer that has seen it all, says she's never seen it. She wasn't expecting this. He's in federal custody now, and he's in a federal prison right now. The same prison that Diddy is in. Now, I don't know if there's a connection, but this is a very strange coincidence. He's now in the same federal prison that Diddy's in. His lawyer's husband is the lawyer that's representing Diddy. It's very strange. And as his lawyer said, she has never seen anything like this. The federal government doesn't hijack a state case like this usually. They want to handle things their own way, and they don't want the state to handle it their way. Something strange is going on here, guys. And the federal government, the FBI, they are not on the same team as New York City, their prosecution department. The mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, is currently under investigation by the FBI. So they're not on the same team, even though they want to pretend like they are. I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not sure if I believe this, but I heard it. I heard it from a YouTuber. Let me pull up his name really quick so I can give him some credit. Real Nathan Daly. If you guys don't know him, check out his YouTube channel. He's done a lot of great videos on this Luigi Mangione case. Diddy is in a part of the prison that is protected, right? It's segregated for celebrities, people with high-profile cases, so that they don't get harmed by other inmates, right? So Diddy would probably get shanked if he was in the general prison population, right? But he's protected. You would have to send like an assassin in there to get him. Luigi Mangione is now in that same part of the prison as Diddy. Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know, guys. I'm just pointing this out. Something isn't right. Luigi Mangione, this Ivy League kid, super smart, and yeah, he wasn't perfect in the way he executed the murder, but he did enough to get away. Yeah, they had the picture of his face, but nobody knew who it was. Nobody turned him in. He gets recognized in a McDonald's with every single piece of evidence that could possibly link him to this murder. The Monopoly money in the backpack. I mean, I don't know what's going on, guys. There are some interesting tidbits about this case that just don't make sense. Part of it is the federal government hijacking this case from New York. I'll probably touch on this again later. There's going to be more developments as we go on. I just want you guys to look at this. There's something going on behind the scenes. They want you to see this, but there's something going on that they don't want you to see. I don't know what's happening. But all these things are interesting, and I just wanted to touch on that. Let's move on to the second topic, which is the drones over New Jersey and Pennsylvania. The original rumor put forth by a congressman is that these were Iranian drones, that they had purchased these drones and a mothership from China, that this mothership was off the East Coast, and that's where these drones came from. These drones have been flying around for weeks. It doesn't make any sense that this is a foreign government. Um, you can make the case they had that Chinese spy balloon, if you guys remember. They let that thing fly across the whole country before they brought it down. So, possibly, I mean, maybe they're just inept enough to let drones from another country fly around our eastern coast. That doesn't make any sense to me. What makes more sense to me is that they know what these drones are. And it's not like, there's an argument, oh, they can't just shoot them down, they could cause a bunch of damage. There are ways to bring these drones down easily without having to do that. You can sever the connection between the drone operator and the drone itself, and these drones are programmed to come straight back down. This is my pup, Ajax. Say hi. What is most likely? Occam's razor. It's almost certainly the U.S. government / military's drones. What are they doing? They're looking for something. Now, John Ferguson has gone viral on the internet, and he was on Valuetainment, Patrick Bet David's podcast, talking about this. There are nuclear missiles that went missing. When Reagan did, they were breaking down the nuclear armaments, they discovered there was like 160 nukes that had gone missing. Nobody knows where they are, what happened to them. Supposedly, these drones are looking for radioactive material, and I think that was actually confirmed. What's most likely is that these drones are the government's and that they're looking for nuclear material, maybe even a nuclear bomb. People are speculating that this bomb could have come through the southern border. I mean, the border's been wide open for the past 4 years, basically. I don't know. But that brings me to my next topic. Al-Qaeda. If you guys haven't listened to Sean Ryan's podcast with Sarah Adams, stop what you're doing, pause this video, and go watch it. She breaks down what's going on. Now, this isn't news in America, but it is all over the world. Osama Bin Laden's son, Osama Bin Laden, who we thought we killed in 2019, is alive. And he's running Al-Qaeda behind the scenes. October 7th, who we credit that attack to Hamas, was actually planned by Al-Qaeda. Now, they don't want to take credit for it. They want to operate behind the scenes. But according to Sarah Adams, who is a credible source, she used to work for the CIA as some kind of, not an intel officer, but something. They're planning to have a coordinated attack in both the UK and United States. According to Sarah, there are already 1,000, a combination of Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Taliban fighters in America. And they're planning an attack in 2025. This is according to her. According to Al-Qaeda, the estimates for how many people they're going to kill is 50 to 60,000 in that range. I wonder if the nuke has anything to do with that. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here, guys. Most people, if you haven't listened to this podcast with Sean Ryan and Sarah Adams, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. And it probably sounds too crazy to be true. Go watch that podcast. Do some research. Don't listen to the mainstream media. There's so much shit going on right now. The drones, Luigi Mangione, look over here, look over here. Something is happening. I don't know what's happening. I'm just trying to illuminate some things for you guys and get you thinking too. Be prepared. I don't know what that means. Have some extra food, some water, buy Bitcoin. Some shady shit is going on, and we are not being told the truth. The government still won't admit that they know what these drones are. They know. They said they don't know what they are, but they know they're not a threat. One of those two statements is false. Either you don't know what they are and you don't know that they're a threat, or you know what they are and you know that they're not a threat. They can't say, we don't know what they are, but we know they're not a threat. That doesn't make any sense. You can't trust anything the fucking government tells you these days, and this is the problem. I'm sure there's things that the public doesn't need to freak out about, but for fuck's sake, we need some transparency these days. The trust in the government has eroded to levels, you can't trust a word they say. Mainstream media is a part of that, right? That's the fourth branch of the government. If you ever listen to Immortal Technique, he says that too. They are the fourth branch of the government. Don't listen to a fucking thing they say. You guys should be looking at videos, not just listening to me. There's plenty of people you could be listening to. Patrick Bet-David is great. Joe Rogan, Jack Spirko. There's a lot of people that you can listen to that are credible sources that give you the straight facts. The mainstream media is not one of them. I don't have much else to say on these topics. These topics are going to expand, and I'm probably going to touch on them again. But I wanted to get you guys thinking. Now I'm going to move on to the next topic that I brought up, which is Bitcoin, right? We're in uncertain times. I said to buy Bitcoin. There's misconceptions about Bitcoin. I'd like to try to end on a lighter topic and give you guys some context for what Bitcoin is and why it's popular and why it's not crypto. Crypto is different from Bitcoin. This will have to be a separate video talking about where Bitcoin came from, but it's a decentralized currency, a peer-to-peer transaction. If you guys remember the trucker protests in Canada, there were people in the United States sending money to these truckers that were protesting and on strike, trying to support them. So, people were sending them money. The Canadian government froze their bank accounts. So the money was coming in, but they couldn't take it out. This is why Bitcoin has become what it is. This is the original point of Bitcoin. If I have Bitcoin in my wallet and I want to send it to somebody in Japan, let's say, there's not a fucking thing any person, government, or entity can do to stop me. Now, if you're holding Bitcoin on an exchange like Coinbase, that's not the case. Coinbase can freeze your account, and they do a lot. But if Bitcoin is in your own personal wallet, you can send that to anybody you want at any time. It's a peer-to-peer transaction, and it also can't be inflated at will. The dollar is a fiat currency that has no actual value or backing. It can be inflated at will because it's based on nothing. So if the inflation rate's at 10%, for every $100 you have in your bank account, the government's taking 10. That $100 is now worth 90 the next year. They can do this at will, and they do. What Bitcoin is, it has a set inflation rate, right? Right now, the cycle is 450 coins are mined per day, every single day. Planned inflation. Inflation is actually somewhat good for the economy. You want your money to be inflated a little bit. The Fed, their set inflation rate, or like their goal is 2% a year. They want some inflation. It's never 2% a year. It's much higher than that. And inflation is killing all of us, as we know. But some inflation is good. Bitcoin has a cycle. Every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin that is mined every day is cut in half. So we just had that cycle in April. The amount of Bitcoin went from 900 coins a day to 450. That's when the price spiked, right? And so Bitcoin follows these cycles of a halving, that's what it's called, where the price spikes. And then we go into a pullback, basically, where it usually pulls back like 60, 70, 80%, depending on the cycle, from its peak price, right? So if it peaked at 100K and it pulled back 70%, it would then peak or, bottom out at about $30,000. So we're in this cycle. We don't know when it's going to end, but the price of Bitcoin only goes in one direction. Right now, I think it's at like 95K. We just had the Feds say that they're not going to cut rates as much as expected next year, which is why the market kind of pulled back on Thursday along with Bitcoin, but it's bounced back. So we're in this cycle of Bitcoin. It's called a bull run. We don't know when this is going to top out. I've heard some smart people that I do trust, not YouTubers pointing to a fucking chart going up and saying, buy XRP. XRP is garbage. All of crypto is garbage except for Bitcoin. This cycle could peak at about 200, 250, 300,000. We don't know. We could be done with the bull run already. We also don't know that. But people that I believe and know and trust, people like Jack Spirko, who if you don't listen to, I highly encourage you guys to check him out. He has 2 podcasts, the Survival Podcast and the Bitcoin Breakout, both of which are awesome. But at some point, this price is going to pull back. We just don't know what the peak is going to be. So, and we don't know how much it's going to pull back, right? Like the history will tell us it's about 70%, but the amount of trust in Bitcoin is becoming so prevalent that these swings of, spiking and then coming down 70% are likely to get less and less. We might already be done with that. We don't know yet. We'll have to see. Either way, it is an asset that only goes up. Some people think that they're so late to Bitcoin. Oh, it's too late. Since 2012, the average rate of return per year is 65%. That includes all the dips and all that factored in, 65% a year. The only difference between somebody that's owned it since 2012 and somebody that buys it today is they've been in it longer. The returns are 65% a year. It's like, the old school way of buying a stock market, total market index fund, like an ETF, like the S&P 500, 7% a year. It's not always 7%. Sometimes it's 15 and sometimes the market crashes, but 7% a year. Bitcoin's 65. You wouldn't say you missed out on the S&P 500. Bitcoin is going to be worth millions of dollars in our lifetime, for sure. When? Who knows? There's a lot of things that can happen to delay that and expedite it. We'll have to see. But the price of Bitcoin, guys, it's not too late. We are in internet 1992 with Bitcoin. I highly encourage you to buy some Bitcoin, not only as an asset, but this is how you break fucking free. Money is a fugazi. It's shit. Money, the US dollar is a fiat currency that loses value every single day. If you hold that in your bank account, it's going to be worth less by the end of the year. Bitcoin is the opposite. The more you hold and the longer you hold, it's an incredible asset. I'll have to do another video on that, but I wanted to kind of put into context what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is a decentralized currency. It was started with no fugazi. XRP, XLM, all these shit coins, they have a pre-mining phase where the developers mine the coins for themselves. And I think XRP, they had like a 99% pre-mine phase, which means they're holding 99% of the currency. It is not legit. It's a pump and dump. If you invest in these coins, you could possibly make some big gains because these coins do spike occasionally, like 1,000% in a week or whatever. But you're gambling. You could just as easily buy a coin and it drops 1,000% in a week. They're not going to catch up. They're not anything like Bitcoin. There's no next Bitcoin. Gresham's law says there can only be one. People will spend the bad money and hoard the good money. Bitcoin has an ETF that is now in people's 401ks, Roth IRAs, retirement accounts. They cannot get rid of Bitcoin. There used to be a fear that they would make Bitcoin illegal, the federal government. Not only did they decide they're not going to, the SEC approved an ETF. So now BlackRock holds Bitcoin and people can buy that portfolio for the Roth IRA. And so BlackRock is under an obligation, a legal obligation to hold Bitcoin with that ETF now. Bitcoin can't be controlled by any person, entity, or country. Doesn't matter how many Bitcoin you have no say in how the Bitcoin network operates or anything. You used to be able to dump a bunch of Bitcoin and drop the price. If you have enough, you can still kind of do that today. But somebody tried to do that. I forget who it was, but they tried to dump a bunch of Bitcoin and crash the price. It was a guy that was supporting Bitcoin Cash, and he wanted everybody to maneuver over to that. And the price did drop for a bit, but then it went right back up. People bought it because they see Bitcoin as an extreme source of value. Not only that, but MicroStrategies, I think, bought like 100 million, or it was 10 or 100 million worth of Bitcoin in one day, and it didn't even move the needle. So these kind of swings, like people buying and dumping a bunch of Bitcoin, don't even affect the price that much anymore. Because so many people are holding Bitcoin, it has actual standing within not even companies, but governments. I mean, Trump wants to create a federal Bitcoin reserve. Other countries already do. It's such an incredible asset, guys. I'll have to do a separate Bitcoin video later, but just so you guys know what we're in. We're right now in the middle of a bull run, a halving cycle in which the price, it's likely to continue to go up. I don't think we're done with it quite yet, but I don't know. Either way, it's never a bad time to buy. One last little tidbit that I'll throw in on Bitcoin. Let's say you bought $10,000 worth of Bitcoin right now, and it dropped by half. So it goes from 100K to 50K, and you lost half your money. So now you're down 5K. You can sell your Bitcoin at that loss. So at a $5,000 loss, you sell it, immediately buy back in. So you get all your Bitcoin back. You can write that loss off on your taxes. Normally, there's a thing called a wash rule with stocks. So if you buy Apple stock and it tanks and you sell at a loss and you buy back into Apple within 30 days, you can't write that loss off on your taxes. It's called the wash rule. It doesn't apply to crypto or Bitcoin. They might close that loophole at some point, but as of right now, you can sell that Bitcoin at a loss, buy it back immediately, and write that loss off on your taxes. I'll do another Bitcoin video, like I said, but I wanted to give you guys some context and some kind of info to clarify what Bitcoin is and why it's valuable. Guys, that's all I had for you today. This is the first current events video I've ever done. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion. Please, on any of these 4 topics, comment below. Let me know what you're thinking. I promise you I will comment back. I will comment back to everybody who comments on this video. I want to spark a discussion, and I'd love to discuss with you guys what's going on. I want to hear some insight too. I don't want to just be preaching to you guys. Give me some feedback. I want to hear what you guys have to say. So please like this video, subscribe. Let's keep talking about these current events together and see if we can figure some things out. Thank you for tuning in, guys.